Have you ever had one of those moments that feels almost too precise to be a coincidence? You're thinking of a friend you haven't spoken to in years, and suddenly your phone lights up with their name? You notice the same repeating number everywhere on license plates, receipts, and clocks, until it feels like the universe itself is tapping you on the shoulder? Or maybe just when you needed it most, an opportunity arrived at the exact second you were ready. These aren't just random events. For many people, they're called synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that seem to line up reality in your favor. But here's the real question. Are these signs guiding us, or are we the ones shaping the signs? To answer that, we need to zoom out. For centuries, humans assumed reality was fixed, like a giant machine ticking along predictably. But then came the discovery of quantum physics. Suddenly, scientists found that at the smallest levels of reality, certainty breaks down. Particles don't follow strict rules. They exist in states of probability. They respond to observation. Reality itself bends around awareness. This discovery shook everything. If observation can collapse a particle's possibilities into one reality, what does that say about us, the observers? Could it be that consciousness isn't just inside our heads, but woven into the fabric of the universe itself? Could synchronicities be more than chance, actual reflections of our alignment with this hidden field? Think about this. When you set an intention, when you visualize something deeply, you're not just daydreaming. You're engaging with the same creative process that shapes reality at the quantum level. And sometimes, the universe seems to wink back with synchronicities, little nods that say, yes, you're in tune, keep going. But here's where many people get stuck. They start chasing the signs. They look for repeating numbers or coincidences as proof that things are working. But if you're always waiting for a sign before believing, then you're putting the cart before the horse. Reality responds to belief. The sign doesn't create the shift creates the sign. So instead of obsessing over whether the universe will show you something today, what if you became the generator of the signal itself? What if the real secret is that synchronicity is simply your own consciousness reflecting back to you through the fabric of reality? The first step in this shift is noticing how often you already influence your environment. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the mood change? Or spoken a word that altered the entire direction of a conversation? That's evidence of your presence rippling outward. Consciousness doesn't stop at the edge of your skin. It resonates into the field around you, like waves moving through water. When you understand this, synchronicity stops being about luck. It becomes feedback. It's reality showing you that your inner state and the outer world are beginning to line up. Instead of asking for proof, you begin creating from the inside out. And here's something powerful. The more you align with your true intentions, the more frequent synchronicities become. They cluster, they accelerate. It feels as if reality itself is conspiring to assist you. But it's not because the universe suddenly started favoring you. It's because you've tuned yourself to a frequency that naturally draws matching experiences. So when you notice a meaningful coincidence, don't just treat it like a magical moment. See it as a mirror. Ask yourself, what inner state created this? What intention am I resonating with that reality is now reflecting back? That question shifts you from being a passive recipient of signs to an active co-creator of reality. This is only the beginning of understanding synchronicity and manifestation through the lens of quantum physics. In the next part, we'll go deeper into how science and spirituality are starting to converge, and how you can train your mind and body to live in a state where synchronicities aren't rare, but natural. Before we move on, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a synchronicity that felt more than coincidence? Share your story in the comments, because your experience might be the exact confirmation someone else needs today. If the first part opened the door by showing you that synchronicity isn't random, now we go deeper into how both science and spirituality are pointing to the same truth. Synchronicities aren't accidents. They are evidence that consciousness is playing a much bigger role in shaping reality than most of us were taught to believe. For most of human history, people believed that the universe was mechanical. The planets moved in fixed orbits, cause and effect ruled everything, what you see is what you get. But in the 20th century, the discoveries of quantum mechanics completely shattered that picture. At the smallest scale, particles don't act like solid objects. They exist as waves of probability, potential states waiting to be chosen. And here's the shocking part. It is observation that collapses these waves into one outcome. This means reality is not fully real until consciousness interacts with it. That's a radical idea. It suggests that the observer and the observed are entangled. You are not separate from the universe you live in. You are part of its unfolding. And synchronicities are one of the clearest ways that truth reveals itself. Carl Jung, the psychologist who coined the term synchronicity, described it as an acausal connection. In other words, two events linked together not by physical cause, but by meaning. You think of someone and they call. You dream of a symbol and the next day you see it on a billboard. There's no obvious cause and effect, yet the connection is undeniable. Jung believed this pointed to a deeper layer of reality where mind and matter are not divided, but unified. Modern research supports this idea more than most people realize. Studies in neuroscience show that our brain often knows things before we consciously do. Benjamin Libet's famous experiments revealed that the brain begins preparing for an action milliseconds before a person decides to act. Even more surprising, experiments in presentiment show physiological changes in the body seconds before a random event occurs. The body reacts before the conscious mind knows what's coming. This means that intuition, gut feelings, and synchronicities might not be random at all. They could be glimpses of your consciousness interacting with future possibilities before they crystallize into the present moment. Think of your mind and body as a kind of antenna. When you're stressed, distracted, or overloaded with noise, the signal is weak and scattered. But when you quiet your nervous system, regulate your emotions, and enter coherence, the signal becomes clear. That's why meditation, breathwork, and mindfulness are not just spiritual practices. They are technologies for tuning your system to the field. When you're coherent, you start to notice subtle nudges. You get the urge to call someone only to find they needed your help. You follow a small curiosity and it leads to a breakthrough opportunity. You trust an inner pull and later realize it saved you from a setback. These aren't coincidences. They're the result of resonance. Neville Goddard, one of the great teachers of manifestation, said feeling is the secret. What he meant is that it's not enough to think about what you want. You must embody the feeling of already having it. Why? Because feeling tunes your system to a frequency. That frequency interacts with the quantum field, pulling matching experiences toward you. Synchronicities then appear not as random magic, but as natural markers along the path you're creating. Imagine you want to start a new business. If you constantly think, I hope it works, I need a sign, maybe I'll get lucky, your energy is uncertain. The field mirrors that uncertainty. Opportunities appear, but slip away. People hesitate. Timing is off. But if you step into the feeling of confidence, alignment, and trust, the field organizes differently. You meet the right partner. The right idea clicks into place. The right resources show up at just the right time. From the outside, it looks like luck. From the inside, you know it's coherence. And here's something important. The more you trust and act from these inner signals, the stronger they become. It's like building muscle. At first, intuition feels faint, almost like a whisper you might ignore. But each time you follow it and see results, you strengthen your belief. Eventually, you no longer need external signs to confirm you're on track. Synchronicities still happen, but they become confirmations, not crutches. This is where the science and the spiritual wisdom finally merge. Quantum physics shows that reality is fluid until observed. Psychology shows that intuition and subconscious awareness can guide us before logic catches up. Mystics teach that intention, feeling, and trust create alignment with the universe. Put them together, and you have a model of manifestation where synchronicities are not random sparks, but natural outcomes of living in tune with the field. So the question becomes, how do you train yourself to live in this state more consistently? How do you become someone who naturally experiences synchronicities as everyday markers of alignment?
The answer lies in practice. Practice of coherence, practice of presence, practice of trusting the inner whisper instead of waiting for the external shout. In the next section, we'll dive into the actual methods, the step-by-step ways you can align your mind and body with the field, strengthen your intuitive signal, and live in a state where reality doesn't just happen to you, but responds through synchronicity.
Now that we've explored how synchronicity connects science and spirituality, let's turn toward the practical. How do you actually cultivate a life where synchronicities flow naturally, where opportunities and alignments appear with less struggle and more ease? The truth is, it comes down to training your inner state. The outer world is a mirror, and the clarity of that reflection depends on what you're broadcasting from within. Think of your consciousness like a radio tower. It's always sending out a signal. Most people don't realize this, and so their signal is filled with static, fear, doubt, distraction, and constant overthinking. When the signal is chaotic, the feedback from reality is chaotic too. But when the signal is clear, the feedback becomes meaningful. That's when synchronicities appear. They are the universe's way of saying, your broadcast has been received. So what are the practices that tune your inner broadcast? The first is stillness. It might sound too simple, but silence is a technology. When you sit quietly, when you disconnect from the endless noise of notifications and obligations, you allow the subtler voice of intuition to emerge. This is why meditation is at the heart of every wisdom tradition. It trains you to hear the signal beneath the noise. Another key practice is coherence. Your mind and body are not separate. If your thoughts say one thing, but your body is locked in stress, the field receives a mixed signal. Breathwork is one of the fastest ways to resolve this. Slow, rhythmic breathing calms the nervous system and syncs the heart and brain into harmony. The HeartMath Institute has shown that this state of heart-brain coherence amplifies intuition, emotional regulation, and overall clarity. In short, it strengthens your antenna. Visualization is the next step. But here's where many people misunderstand. Visualization is not about daydreaming or forcing yourself to picture something over and over. It's about feeling. If you want to manifest a reality, don't just think about it, embody it. What does it feel like in your body to already be there? To have the relationship, the success, the health, the freedom? That emotional frequency is what the field responds to. Neville Goddard emphasized this truth again and again. He said to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. By feeling it as real now, you collapse probabilities into a chosen outcome. The field doesn't respond to wishful thinking. It responds to embodied states. When you live as if it is already real, reality reorganizes to match that vibration. Of course, alignment isn't just about meditation and visualization. It's also about action. The universe works through you, not around you. Synchronicities often arrive disguised as opportunities that require movement. That's why following small nudges is so important. You might feel a sudden pull to take a different route home, to strike up a conversation with a stranger, to open a book you'd forgotten on the shelf. Those small actions can unlock synchronicities you could never plan. Here's the key difference. Most people wait for certainty before acting, but those who live in alignment act from intuition before certainty, and that act of trust generates the evidence. Life meets them halfway. The bridge between intention and manifestation is often built one small step at a time. Now let's address resistance. Even with the best practices,
you will encounter doubt. Your logical mind will demand proof. Your old conditioning will whisper that you're being unrealistic. This is normal. The mind is wired to keep you safe, which often means keeping you in the familiar. But synchronicities thrive at the edge of the unknown. The antidote to resistance is self-trust. Each time you follow intuition and witness a result, you weaken the grip of doubt. Over time, trust becomes your default. And what about those periods where synchronicities seem to vanish, where everything feels stuck and no signs appear? This too has meaning. Sometimes silence from the universe is not absence, but integration. Think of it like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You water it, you trust the process, and eventually the sprout appears. The same is true for intentions. Just because synchronicities aren't obvious doesn't mean nothing is happening. The field is always rearranging. Your role is to stay aligned and patient. Let's bring this into a real example. Imagine someone who wants to write a book. They meditate, visualize holding the finished copy, and feel the pride of completion. Days later, they randomly meet someone at a cafe who happens to be a publisher. Coincidence? Not quite. Their inner state broadcasted clarity, and reality delivered the bridge. But here's the catch. If that person doesn't act, if they brush off the conversation as nothing, the synchronicity fades. Alignment requires participation. So the practical roadmap is simple but powerful. First, create space for stillness so you can hear the signal. Second, practice coherence through breath and emotional regulation. Third, embody the feeling of your desired state. Fourth, follow intuitive nudges, no matter how small. And finally, act on the synchronicities that appear, treating them as confirmation rather than accidents. When you live this way, synchronicities stop being rare. They become the natural language of reality. You wake up to a world that feels alive, responsive, and interactive. The universe becomes less like a machine and more like a dance partner, responding to every step you take with rhythm and meaning. And the best part? The more you live in alignment, the more you inspire others to do the same. Your synchronicities ripple outward. They spark conversations, create opportunities for others, and expand the collective field of possibility. You're not just changing your own life, you're shifting the resonance of everyone you interact with. In the next section, we'll explore what happens when you truly surrender to this process, how letting go of control doesn't mean giving up, but stepping into a deeper flow where manifestation and synchronicity accelerate beyond what the logical mind can imagine. Before we move forward, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever followed a small intuitive nudge that led to something big? Maybe it was a chance meeting, a job offer, or even meeting someone who changed your life. Share your experience in the comments, because each story proves that synchronicity isn't just theory, it's real, and it's happening all around us.
When you begin to live in alignment, synchronicities reveal a hidden architecture to life. What once felt like random chance starts to look like a carefully woven web, where every person, event, and opportunity has its place. You start noticing that the right people show up at the right time, the exact resources you need appear, and challenges, even the difficult ones, carry lessons that propel you forward. It's as though the universe has been whispering all along, and you're finally tuned in to hear it. But alignment is not a destination, it's a practice. Too often people think of synchronicity as a one-time sign, like winning a cosmic lottery ticket. The truth, it's a living relationship. The more attention you give it, the more it responds. Like any relationship, it thrives on consistency, trust, and openness. If you only look for signs when you're desperate, you reduce synchronicity to a tool for problem solving rather than a way of living. But if you approach it with curiosity and gratitude, it transforms into an ongoing dialogue. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to view reality as interactive. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this showing me?" That simple reframe unlocks meaning in places you never expected. A missed bus might connect you with a stranger who changes your perspective. A closed door might redirect you to a path that holds far more potential. Nothing is wasted. Every event becomes part of the conversation. This is where surrender becomes essential. Surrender is not passive. It doesn't mean sitting back and waiting for life to carry you. It means letting go of the illusion that you must control every outcome. When you force reality into rigid expectations, you miss the subtle invitations the universe is offering. Surrender is trusting that the intelligence orchestrating galaxies is also capable of guiding your next step. Think of a river. You can exhaust yourself trying to swim upstream, fighting against the flow, or you can surrender to the current and be carried forward with ease. Synchronicity lives in the current. It shows up most clearly when you stop forcing and start allowing. This doesn't mean abandoning action. It means aligning your action with flow instead of resistance. There's a pattern that emerges here. First comes clarity, knowing what you want to create, even if it's just a feeling. Then comes embodiment, feeling that state as if it's already real. Then comes trust, allowing synchronicities to guide you without clinging to control. And finally, action, stepping into the opportunities that appear with courage and presence. When all four work together, life feels less like a struggle and more like a dance. It's also important to remember that synchronicity operates outside linear time. Sometimes what feels like a delay is actually perfect timing. You might think you're late, but in truth, you arrive at the exact second you're needed. Imagine missing a train, only to realize later that it allowed you to meet someone at the station who would never have crossed your path otherwise. Or consider how many people have stories of narrowly avoiding accidents because of a tiny change in timing. What we call delay may actually be precision. There's also a deeper layer. Synchronicity doesn't just reveal external opportunities, it reflects your inner evolution. When you shift your beliefs, your reality shifts to mirror them. If you carry a belief that you're unworthy, you'll likely notice synchronicities that reinforce lack or rejection. But when you reprogram that belief into worthiness, synchronicities begin delivering affirmations of abundance and love. This is why inner work is so vital. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And here's something fascinating. Neuroscience has shown that the brain is a prediction machine. It constantly filters reality to match your expectations. Out of billions of sensory inputs, it selects only the ones that align with your beliefs. In other words, your brain literally edits your reality to fit your story. Synchronicities often appear when you shift that story. By opening yourself to new possibilities, your brain starts noticing connections it would have previously ignored. What you call coincidence is actually perception expanding. Let's ground this with another example. Suppose someone carries the belief that opportunities are scarce. Their brain filters reality to notice rejection, obstacles, and scarcity, and their life confirms the story. But once they shift to the belief opportunities are abundant and I'm ready for them, their brain starts filtering for openings, resources, and supportive people. Suddenly, they see synchronicities everywhere. The opportunities were always there, but their old lens kept them invisible. This is why practices like journaling and affirmations can be so powerful. They're not magic in themselves, they're tools to rewrite your internal story. And once the story shifts, synchronicities reflect it back. Life becomes a mirror that confirms your new alignment. As your awareness deepens, you may also notice synchronicities linking across time. A childhood memory connects with a present event in an uncanny way. A dream foretells an encounter.
You think of someone and moments later they appear. These experiences hint at something profound, that time itself may not be as linear as we assume. The future and past are woven into the present moment, and synchronicity is the thread that stitches them together. Albert Einstein once said that time is an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. Synchronicities crack that illusion. They remind us that we live in a multi-dimensional reality, where cause and effect are not always straightforward. Sometimes the effect arrives before the cause. Sometimes the future pulls you forward as much as the past pushes you. And in those moments, life feels less like a chain of random events and more like a beautifully orchestrated symphony. When you start to see the world this way, gratitude naturally expands. Every moment feels charged with potential. You begin to realize that the universe is not indifferent, but intimate, not distant, but deeply personal. And gratitude itself becomes a magnet for even more synchronicities. When you appreciate the signs, you signal to the field that you're paying attention. The feedback loop strengthens. More alignments appear. So ask yourself, how much of your life are you truly present for? How often do you rush past the subtle signs because you're caught in distraction or worry? Presence is the foundation of synchronicity. The more you slow down and pay attention, the more you notice the guidance that was always there. In the final part of this journey, we're going to explore what it really means to live fully surrendered to synchronicity, not just seeing it as a helpful tool, but embracing it as a way of being. Because when you do, life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that happens with you.
To live fully in alignment with synchronicity is to enter a different relationship with life itself. Instead of struggling to control outcomes, you step into cooperation with a larger intelligence. You realize that you are not a separate observer standing outside the universe. You are part of the very fabric of it. Your intentions, your emotions, and your actions ripple outward, and reality ripples back in response. It's not magic, it's resonance. The more you embody this truth, the more effortless life feels. It doesn't mean you'll never face challenges, far from it. But even challenges take on new meaning. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, you recognize them as initiations. Each difficulty becomes a teacher, guiding you toward greater alignment. Each detour contains a hidden gift. Even pain can carry synchronicity if you're willing to look deeper. This perspective doesn't eliminate struggle, but it transforms it. You stop asking, "Why me?" and begin asking, "What is this shaping in me? What doorway might this be opening?" Suddenly, setbacks become setups for breakthroughs. Loss clears the way for new beginnings. Rejection redirects you to greater alignment. And through it all, the universe continues to whisper, "Trust the flow." At the heart of synchronicity lies trust. Without trust, you miss the signs or dismiss them as coincidence. With trust, you treat every sign as sacred. You begin to live as though the universe is alive and communicative, because it is. And the deeper your trust grows, the clearer the signs become. Trust creates a feedback loop. The more you trust, the more you see. The more you see, the more you trust. This is why so many traditions emphasize surrender. True surrender is not weakness. It is strength born from knowing you are supported by something far greater than yourself. When you let go of control, you allow the infinite intelligence of the field to move through you. You stop resisting and start flowing. And in that flow, synchronicities multiply. Life becomes not just manageable, but miraculous. One of the most profound realizations you'll encounter is that synchronicity isn't rare at all. It has always been there. The only difference is awareness. Imagine a radio station that's been broadcasting music your whole life, but your dial was set to static. When you finally tune to the right frequency, the music doesn't start. It was always playing. You just weren't tuned in. Synchronicity works the same way. The universe has been in dialogue with you since the beginning. You're simply learning to listen. So how do you embody this as a lifestyle, not just an occasional experience? First, make presence a daily practice. Whether through meditation, mindful breathing, or simply pausing to notice the world around you, presence sharpens your awareness of signs. Second, cultivate gratitude. Celebrate every synchronicity, big or small. Gratitude tells the universe, I see you, I'm listening. And third, live with openness. Don't limit the form of your manifestations. The universe often delivers in ways you could never predict. Stay flexible enough to receive. Imagine waking up each morning and asking, how will the universe speak to me today? That simple shift transforms your day into an adventure. You stop bracing for problems and start anticipating alignment. You become a participant in the unfolding mystery, awake to the magic of the moment. Life ceases to be ordinary. Every interaction, every symbol, every coincidence becomes part of the dialogue. And perhaps most importantly, living in alignment with synchronicity is not just for you. Your alignment ripples outward. Each time you follow intuition, each time you act on a sign, each time you embody trust, you create a resonance that impacts everyone around you. You inspire others to trust their own signs. You show them through your life that the universe is responsive, alive, and intelligent. In this way, synchronicity becomes contagious. Your alignment helps lift the collective field. We are living in a time when this awareness is more important than ever. The old models of rigid control, scarcity, and fear are breaking down. A new way of living is emerging, one based on flow, trust, and resonance. By embracing synchronicity, you step into that new paradigm. You stop fighting against life and start co-creating with it. And in so doing, you not only transform your own experience, you help shift the consciousness of the world. So as you move forward from here, remember this: synchronicity is not just something that happens now and then. It is the natural language of reality. The more you listen, the more you align. The more you align, the more life reveals its hidden order. And in that order, you find not only guidance, but a profound sense of belonging. You realize you are not lost in a chaotic universe. You are woven into a meaningful tapestry where every thread matters, including yours. Now I want to invite you into the conversation. Take a moment and reflect. What's the most powerful synchronicity you've ever experienced? Was it a chance meeting, a sign at just the right time, or an alignment so perfect it gave you chills? Share your story in the comments, because when we share these experiences, we remind each other that synchronicity is real, that the universe is alive, and that we are all connected through its invisible web. And if this journey resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that life is meaningful, someone who's struggling, someone who's searching, someone who's ready to remember the magic. Together, we can create a ripple effect of alignment, awakening more people to the synchronicities that are already guiding them. If you're ready to go deeper, make sure you subscribe and stay connected, because this is just the beginning. There's so much more to explore about consciousness, manifestation, and the hidden architecture of reality. Until then, trust the signs, follow the flow, and remember, you are never alone. The universe is always speaking. All you have to do is listen.